Okay.
Greetings.
Hi, everyone. Welcome tonight. It's 8:02. Sorry that we're a little 2 minutes late. But I'm excited for tonight. So tonight is mental health talk. And this is Dr. K from True Vine Wellness. I'm a naturopathic doctor and I help individuals combat their health naturally. So here tonight I have a guest speaker, but before I introduce her, I'm just going to wait a couple more seconds to see if anyone else join in.
Right.
And before we do this introduction, so this is
Uh,
exciting. So 8:02 at 8:05, we'll get started.
okay.
So yeah,
Yeah.
um,
Is this going to be recorded?
yeah, it's actually going to show up on yeah. So when we're finished, it's going to show up on people actually watching live. So it'll show up.
Great, great.
Yeah. So thank you for joining. Whoever just joining, has you joining, just say hi.
Welcome, welcome.
Welcome. Welcome, everyone. So, welcome those who are joining. We're going to get started in about 2 minutes. Just giving you, we joined in about 2 minutes late, so we're giving it one more minute. 8:05, we'll get started. And, for those who are going to watch the replay after this, just hashtag replay. Let us know you're watching. Share this with someone that you know that may be
Mm-hmm.
experiencing, mental health issues or mental illness. And don't be ashamed because I know, especially from a Caribbean background and being African American, being Black, it becomes a stigma where we are ashamed to admit that we may be having some mental health issues. So we
Mm-hmm.
actually want to we want to squash that stigma, and we want to bring it to the light and let everyone know that mental health is actually, all of us have mental health, right? Just like you have physical health, you have emotional health, you have, financial health, educational health, you have mental health, right? So
That's
each
right.
of and every one of what Natasha is going to tell us about the difference between mental health and mental illness, and we're going to dive into some specifics. So I'm going to okay. So now it's 8:05. All right. So again, my name is Dr. K. I am a naturopathic doctor at True Vine Wellness. I actually help individuals combat their health issues naturally. And tonight I have a special guest speaker, Natasha Desani, and she is actually a mental health professional. I want to introduce her correctly. She's a mental health professional, social scientist. She's a licensed master social worker and trauma informed wellness coach. So I am pleased to announce the guest speaker tonight. I has promised, the last video, it's been a while. I haven't been on here in a while, but took a little bit of a break. But I promised audience that I would have a guest speak on for this month talking about mental health because we want to acknowledge Mental Health Awareness Month. And hi, mom. My mom is watching. So you
Hi,
want to
Mom.
we want to at least acknowledge Mental Awareness Month. I did not want this month to be completed without actually discussing that. And if we have time, because this full platform is for Natasha tonight. Um, if there's any little crevices in the middle, I may mention some natural things that can be done based on what she's talking about
Mm-hmm.
in between all that. So without further ado, Natasha, thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you for taking the time out to join us and do this talk so that we can empower people and help people with their mental health. So tell us, you could go ahead and reintroduce yourself and let us know like what got you into what you're doing now. Like, why did you choose this field?
Thank you for having me, Dr. K. And greetings to everyone that's joining. Give thanks for this platform to talk about mental health. What got me into mental health? So, as Dr. K mentioned, I'm a licensed social worker. I guess social workers work in many different roles. Mental health was something that was I just fell into something that I see that there's a need in our community where we don't really talk about things that really bother us. And I've noticed the reason why I even got into with Dr. K is because I have noticed in my profession as moving from social work to a mental health field where these mental health issues are showing up as physical issues. Meaning a lot of people that 90% of diseases is caused by stress. The mental illnesses is impacting people's physical health. If you see somebody with diabetes, it's very more likely there's a morbidity, you know that word, between
Morbidity, yeah.
diabetes and mental illness, between high
Mm-hmm.
blood pressure and mental illness. So I'm very passionate about healing the whole person, because there's no health without mental health. We need both of these things to be balanced for people to live, I would say, their to be their optimal self.
Very true. Mm-hmm. Very true. That's true. So tell us about what's the difference between mental health and mental illness.
That's a very good question. So first, everyone should know that everyone has mental health, just like what everyone has physical health. So mental health involves, for example, mental health looks like is your emotional and psychological well-being. To break that down, it deals with your feelings, your thoughts, your self-esteem. How are you able to adapt to change and handle stress? How you're able to interact with others. Three signs that your mental health is in its optimal state is that you're able to adapt to stressors. Life happens, like we're in a pandemic right now. How are you able to adapt? Are you able to adapt, or you're able to just sit down and worry all the time and not take care of yourself? Are you able to engage in number two? Are you able to engage in productive activities opposed to destructive activities that will harm you? Um, are able to three engage in healthy relationships that are meaningful, relationships that are, I would say, balanced, where there's a give and take, or are you engaged in relationships that are, I would say, that are disruptive to your overall well-being? So that's mental health, and everyone has mental health. And I would say, again, everyone has mental health. However, some of us may have a mental illness. And just like our people, just like how we have physical illness, like the diabetes and high blood pressure, mental illness is disease in our mind, a disease that happens in our brains. And that looks like it has to be a significant dysfunction in your mood, behavior, and thought. So, how does that look like in your thought? If you're having poor memory, not able to concentrate, irrational thinking, suicidal thoughts, when you come on emotion, more sadness, more anxiety, irritability, you lose interest in things that are pleasurable to you, behavior that can look like insomnia, that can look like sleeping too much or not sleeping at all, that can look like not eating or overeating, that can look
Mm-hmm.
like suicidal attempt, that can look like substance abuse, that can also look like isolation. Also, it has to be significant impairment, meaning that you're not able to do the things that you normally used to do, and
Mm-hmm.
it has to disrupt three parts in your life, like significant parts in your life, like social interaction. You're not interacting with your family and loved ones. You're not able to engage with your with, I would say, you're not able to go to work. It has to cause a significant disruption in your life that you're not able to engage in things that you normally used to do. And also, because there's such an imbalance in your brain, it can
Mm-hmm.
physically weigh you down. I mean, you cannot get out of bed sometimes. I mean, like you cannot get out of bed. I mean, like you're not even take care. You can't even take care of yourself. You're not washing yourself, cleaning your house. So
Mm-hmm.
it has to be significant. Two things: mental illness has to cause significant dysfunction and impairment in your life. And only a mental health professional can diagnose you with a mental illness. Nobody's happy 24 hours, 365 days. Everybody experiences some mental health issue. What make it a mental illness is what I just mentioned. But again, and it has to be a certain length of time too. So again, only a mental health professional can diagnose you with a mental illness.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So like if someone having just typical, not feeling the day to day once in a while, that's not mental illness.
No, and it has to be context too. If you just lose a loved one, you're gonna feel, you're gonna feel down. It's normal to feel down.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to take an exam tomorrow and you didn't study, you're going to feel anxious.
Right,
So no, so it
right.
has to be in context of the normal of people everyday life. we all have emotions and these anxieties and these worrying. What make it abnormal is, again, is when it disrupts your social life,
Mm-hmm.
your work life, or you engaging in things that are pleasurable to you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Hi, Sabrina. Thank you for joining. Um, what? So my mom is asking, did you say high blood pressure can cause mental problems? No, she was saying that there's some health issues are paired with emotional and mental health issues. So
Hmm.
basically, mental and emotional health issues can be suppressed, causing physical manifestations. So
Hmm.
if you're stressed, or you're highly stressed about something, or you're depressed about something, but you're suppressing it, you're pressing it down, you're not dealing with it, it can actually turn into a physical illness. So there's
Hmm.
actually been studies that's been shown that physical manifestations of cancer, they actually have studies where they connect certain organs with certain emotions, like the lungs is grief, kidneys anger.
Hmm.
If you have issues
And
with
kidneys
kidneys,
anxiety too. A lot
yeah.
of the store
So they say if you're having
exact.
kidney
Hmm.
issues, they say look into anger, look into anxiety. If you're having lung issues, they've connected that with grief. You're grieving over something that you haven't dealt with. So mom, that's what she was saying, that if sometimes a person can have high blood pressure, but it could be dealing with stress, because stress can increase someone's blood pressure. It may not
Hmm.
be any issues with the heart per se. It could be all emotional, because if
Right.
you're stressed, it increases your blood pressure. And also, think about it too, there's other connections with blood pressure. If you have kidney issues, that can also connect to blood pressure, because there's actually a certain enzyme produced by the kidneys that actually plays a role in your blood pressure. So it could be so many contributing factors. And also, when you're stressed, you have your cortisol levels that you're continuously producing from
Hmm.
your adrenal glands in your kidneys. That actually contributes to high blood pressure. And actually, the cortisol actually responds to increased stress. So that's the
Hmm.
connection there. And also, the adrenal gland sits right on top of your kidneys. So they're all like, there's all connections. So I'm actually glad my mom asked that question, because um, it's really good to know that when you have, a certain physical issue, it may not be okay caused by a physical thing. It may actually be something deeper down.
Right,
So,
right. I'm glad you
so
explained that. Yeah, it's so good to know the connection, that we're not isolated beings. Everything is interconnected.
mm-hmm, yeah. How is this, Pastor Rod? Okay, how is this country dealing with mental health recovery overall? I have seen mental issues folks get 3 days um, account and a prescription and get some novels. Well, okay, so maybe you can address that, Natasha. So he's talking about that, with people with mental issues, they get prescribed a drug and then they're sent home to deal with it. So what would you have to say about that?
So when it comes down to prescription, that's not my specialty. I do not prescribe
Mhm.
medication. I firmly believe in my practice and what I do, that people can heal through natural, holistic ways. Do I
Right.
work in conjunction with people that take medication? That's not my specialty. My specialty is right now, what I'm focusing on is holistic ways to support people with
Hmm.
mental health issues. And that look like your diet and lifestyle changes.
Hmm. Right, and that's hugely important, which we could touch upon a little later. And a prescription, yeah. So to what Pastor Rod is saying, that is that when people get prescribed certain medication, I've personally seen people where they're actually on anti-anxiety drugs, they're on
Mhm.
antidepressant drugs, and they are like they're like zombies. They can function in the world, but they just somber, they're just dead, there's no emotion, there's nothing.
Right.
And it's really heartbreaking, because these are people who actually been on the drugs for like years, and they become a different person, and so, but not knowing, like talking about holistic, just doing simple things can change that around. However,
Right.
I mean, personally,
And
for me,
then,
go ahead.
if I want to interrupt, and then too, 90% of people that's in behavioral health, that's getting mental health therapy, it says they experience some type of trauma.
Mm,
Trauma meaning trauma, mean that you experience when you experience any type of traumatic event that looks like the rape, that looks like domestic violence, that looks like even secondhand trauma, seeing somebody going through that, that
Mhm.
impacts your brain, and that cannot
Mhm.
be treated by medication. The person
Mhm.
has to have some type of coping skills how to deal with that stressor opposed
Mhm.
to being medicated. So that's why a lot of people that are on these medication that I'm firmly against, they're not recovering because you're treating symptoms. Somebody come to
Right.
you with depression, but deeper down is, oh, my mom passed away when I was 10. I didn't recover from
Mhm.
that. Or
Mhm.
I was brutally attacked. Or I'm a black person living in America. That's
Mhm.
traumatizing. And
That alone
we're
is right
we don't
nowadays.
have treatment for all these things. We're just going on by, and this again, black is cracking on the inside. Black
Mhm.
people are cracking on the inside. We look
Mhm.
young on the outside, but our cells are cracking. The more stress we're stressed out by all these everyday living, that's the
Mhm.
impact how we're showing up
Mhm.
internally.
Mhm. Yep, that is very true. So, I mean, unfortunately, we're not here to downplay anyone or any profession, but unfortunately, people who've been diagnosed with a mental illness, they're giving drugs just to suppress the issue, not to really help them. And this is where
Right.
people like you and I come into play, because then we help work with the underlying issue. And then they come to you and they talk to you, and you give your recommendations on what they can do. So actually, how does one person know, like, after, like, how do they know they have a mental illness? Is it just, series? I know you kind of touched up on this just not too long ago.
Based on the three things I mentioned before, how do you know you have a mental illness? You're not engaging in social activity that you normally like to engage in. You're not able to sleep. You're not able to. It looks very different for everybody. Everybody is not one size fit all with mental illness.
Mm-hmm.
What may look like a mental illness for me may look different for you. So it has to
Mm-hmm.
with the symptoms that I mentioned before, where it's interrupting your everyday living. You're not engaging with
Mm-hmm.
your family. You're not able to. You want to get up and go to work. You're numbing your heavy emotional weight, whether that like eating food, too much food, or not eating,
Mm-hmm.
or that you look like drugs or alcohol, or that looks like, again, you're having suicidal thoughts, or you're not able to concentrate, you're not even able to go to work, or you're going to work but you're not able to focus. Um, or again, you're not able to engage in things that are pleasurable to you. You can't get out of bed. It's weighing you down. Remember, we are talking about a certain certain part of your body is related to certain stressors. So some people may
Mm-hmm.
have the heavy chest. Certain people may have the back pain. Some people it look very different for everyone. And
Which
again,
means,
only a mental health professional can diagnose a mental illness,
mm-hmm.
and symptoms. Again, it looks different for everyone.
Mm-hmm. So with this COVID-19, because I've actually noticed that, with this pandemic that's been going around,
Hmm.
suicidal rates has increased. People are getting more depressed. People have lost their jobs. People don't know what tomorrow holds. People don't even know, like, they don't even know what's going to happen next. And so suicidal rates has increased. I mean, even kids, even small kids are killing
Yeah.
themselves because when they know they can't go out to school anymore, they're staying home. I forgot what state it was, but a girl was found dead. She killed herself because she couldn't go out. I mean, like,
Mm.
what would you say for people to do, in, like, what would you say about this, like, in terms of your specialty? How would you help someone
Right.
go through this process of this pandemic?
Right. It's so unfortunate. We're all experiencing not only individual traumas, but a collective trauma.
Mm-hmm.
When we experience this pandemic, a lot of job loss, a lot of hopelessness, and in my personal opinion, these are the suicide have always been heavy amongst young people.
Mm-hmm.
From ages 10 to 34, as the leading cause of death, suicide.
Oh,
So,
wow.
right. So now we're seeing, of course, people not able to do what they normally used to do before the pandemic. So, yes, it's increasing anxiety and depression, a lot of loss, a lot of grieving. Um, it's the oh, I would say it's unfortunate, and it's a product of a system. And when I say system, like an overall system where
Mm-hmm.
there's no planning, where there's no planning preventive measure in place to
Mm-hmm.
support when it come on to, I would say, emotional support.
Mm-hmm.
And that's at the basic. Like nobody, I don't feel like no one is trained how to deal with our emotions on an individual level. Like we
Mm-hmm.
all grow up and like, oh, emotions are just emotions, but no one sit down and help you to deal with your emotions. And you go to school and forget it. You can't have no emotions in school. You just got to
Mm-hmm.
do your work. You're anxious,
Mm-hmm.
just get
Mm-hmm.
over it. And coming from a Caribbean background, I can speak for myself. My parents
Mm-hmm.
didn't teach me nothing about social emotional learning, how to
Mm-hmm.
deal with my when I have anger, how to deal when I feel sad, how when I feel depressed. No one is teaching our kids this, and no one is teaching, even as adults, we don't need to handle our own
No.
emotions.
No.
So again, and until it get, unfortunately, it's only when thing gets worse, that's when we go to a professional. So what I
Mm-hmm.
can say based on what I've been doing, not only for myself, is creating a self-care routine. How do you care for yourself when it comes on to difficult emotions? Do you
Mm-hmm.
suppress it, act like it's not there, you're not feeling it? Or do you learn, how do you learn to deal with difficult emotions? It can look like as simple as acknowledging it, simple as, I know one technique that I use is it's called a mindfulness technique. And that's
Mm-hmm.
something and mindfulness is a form of meditation and just focusing on your breath, focus on the present moment. I simple just put my hand on my heart, one on my stomach and say, and just pay attention to my breath and say simple, this is a moment of suffering. May I have compassion for myself? And
Mm-hmm.
simple tools you can tap into. Again, lifestyle changes. Are you being active? Are you getting outside? Wear your mask, whatever you have to wear. I personally not wearing a mask. I do what I need to do for me. Do what you need to do for you. But going outside, taking a walk. It's all about having, we will never go back to the way things were. But how do we create some type of a consistent routine for ourselves to care for ourselves? It has to look like moving. Movement is life. Getting out, walking. What about what you're eating? Our body's made up of more, I think, 70% of water. Are you drinking
Mm-hmm.
water? What about your diet? Meditation. Meditation is life, for me at least. It's simple. You don't have to be an expert on meditation. Meditation is not about, oh, I don't want to think about this. I don't want to control my mind. It's about learning how to be with your mind. And a
Mm-hmm.
simple meditation you can do is go on YouTube, guided meditation, 10 minutes. I mean, just simple thing. Journaling. I mean, journal, writing things down. That is so powerful. And one of my favorite is gratitude. Give thanks. Give
Mm-hmm.
thanks for just even getting up, because there's so many other people that did not get up. And that's something that I've always practiced, and it's even more something that I have to do every single day. So it's all about having a routine. If even is one thing that you do to tap in, to go in and
Mm-hmm.
really be still with the inner self of us, opposed to trying to seek something external. That makes
Mm-hmm.
sense.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's ways that we can acknowledge that we're feeling a certain way. It's not, because I mean, I just remember, as you touched upon, the culture, like
Hmm.
for me, I'm Caribbean, I'm Jamaican, and we grew up not really acknowledging our emotions. It's like,
At all.
oh, you cry for go into the corner, sit somewhere. It's we grew up not being taught how to manage our emotions, and it actually affected us today as adults, because now when you're in adulthood, you don't know, you're now learning and try to maneuver your way around those emotions, and then now you start a family, you start having children, you're having your husband, you have
Pass the
your wife,
same thing on.
and then it
Hmm.
becomes a whole circle, and
A
then
whole circle.
you're now teaching them how to manage their emotions, which is not the right way. You know what I
Right.
mean? So, so it's really important that we acknowledge, and like my mom said, most people are not being educated about these conditions, and it's very true. They're not being educated, especially, for us, in a certain, not even just Caribbean, but like in other cultures, these things are not being acknowledged.
Right.
You have a
Right.
mental
It's a
illness,
world thing. One
it's
in
a
four
world.
person, one
Hmm.
in four people. Mental illness is a number one disability in the world, not just in
Hmm.
America, in the world. One in four people in their lifetime will experience a mental health issue. So we have a whole society not dealing with the internal world. If I have a cut, you can, you can give me a band-aid for that cut and, sew me up. But we're having injuries literally in our brains
Mm-hmm.
with so many things, and no one, and we haven't, we don't have a society that really, I would say, acknowledge the mental illness, the mental health issues of people. If I say I'm not feeling good today, oh, you get over it. There's no empathy, no compassion for
Yeah.
emotional health.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about, get away from me, something is wrong with you.
Mm-hmm.
When in reality, we all experience anxiety, we all experience the sadness, grief, loss, and I think the more we acknowledge that mental health is a part of just being a human being, then
Mm-hmm.
it forever will be this other opposed to a us thing.
Mm-hmm. I also think too that the world that we live in today, I should say maybe here in the East Coast, in this world of New York City, and the hustle and bustle, it also depends on your lifestyle, because sometimes your lifestyle don't allow you to be in touch with your emotions. It doesn't allow you
Mm,
to grieve. It doesn't allow you to, to be sad. It doesn't allow you to really acknowledge what you're feeling, because you just got to get up and go. Oh, this didn't work out. Okay, I got to get up and go. And then not realizing each time you're trying to get up and go, you're actually suppressing it. It's not a matter of,
mm,
okay, I can't stay down for too long, but no, it's okay to, it's okay to acknowledge that you're hurting. Because I mean, for me, in my practice, I've actually seen clients where if they're coming to me about one thing, I'm actually asking them about their emotional and mental health, because I know
mm.
it can play a role in their physical health. And then
Right.
you'd be surprised that they actually open up and start talking about, oh, I went through this divorce 2 years ago, because you ask them when this
Trauma.
illness
Mm,
started, and they're like, oh, 2 years ago. Oh, what happened 2 years ago? Oh, I got divorced. Oh, I got into an accident. I lost my child. I this, and it's so many, and you start going backwards. So they have to heal from that, and then the
mm-hmm.
manifestation begin to take place when they're healing emotionally and mentally. So it's such a mental health is such a huge component to our physical beings. So is there any such thing as like risk factors to mental illness? Is there a risk factor, or can we say, are there risk factors to like
Mm,
anxiety or like a panic attack or depression? Are there any?
the risk factors would be, of course, if there's a lot of loss, a lot of grief, I would say a lot of loss, that will definitely, if you're in a community where there's a lot of violence, that will definitely impact you, I would say. And if you're Black in America, like things like that, definitely, I would say, increase your chance of having a mental illness than
Mm-hmm,
um than some other people. And sometimes too, mental illness is genetics. Your parents can pass it on to you, that you have that mental illness gene. But it's a I would say it's a combination of nature versus nurture,
mm-hmm,
environment and your
mm-hmm,
biology.
mm-hmm. Right. Okay. So, I mean, you spoke about supporting themselves through meditation, through exercise, moving around, because actually exercise produces your feel good hormones, your endorphins,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it helps, so moving around is definitely important. And what I want to segue this, I want to kind of interject this part is where vitamin D is important.
Mm-hmm.
Vitamin D is good for the immune system, but it's also good for mental health.
Right.
So vitamin D is known as a prohormone. It's not a vitamin per se. It's actually a prohormone because our body makes it from the sun. We don't get vitamin D. From the sun itself. It's actually the sun touching our skin that activates the process of making vitamin D. So vitamin D is really important for emotional mental health, as well as
Mm-hmm.
because every organ in your body has a receptor site for vitamin D. So vitamin D is really important for your emotions as well, not just physical health, but also your brain. It's good for brain health. Usually, I'm always recommending, people who worked with me know, and even my family know, when I recommend fish oil, I'm like, take it with vitamin D. just get fish oil, vitamin D off the bat. So you just kill two birds with one stone, because fish oil is
Right.
also great. Fatty acids are also great for the brain as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's good to just do the both together. At what age group? At what age group is more affected by this? So what age group is more affected by mental illness?
Any age, any
Can have.
age. I've seen 4-year-olds in my practice.
Oh wow, wow, that's hard. That's.
What people have to understand is that these children are feeling mental health issues too.
Mhm.
If mom and dad is divorced, that's impacting them. If mom and
Yeah.
dad if the domestic violence in home, that's impacting our children. And
Mhm.
that looks like the anxiety, they can't sleep, they may be wet in the bed.
Mhm.
It looks very different for children, but still kids are being impacted. It's at any age. Mental illness can show up.
And actually, that is a sign when your kid is wetting the bed. That's actually a sign that they're dealing with some kind of stress, or some emotional
Hmm.
trauma. So
It
that's
could
a.
be even sexual trauma too. So
Mhm.
it varies of what
Mhm.
that child is dealing with.
Mhm.
I think anxiety is the number one um, mental illness in the world. But again,
Mhm.
mental I would say anxiety is a symptom. Underneath that is very likely some type of trauma that this person never got to heal from. You talk
Mhm.
about your client having the divorce, losing the job, losing children. Underneath the anxiety and the depression is they were it's a lot of traumatic events that they never got any type of resolution to
Mhm.
around.
And mental health, like I said earlier, has no color, no creed, no
No
culture,
color,
no
no
nothing.
age.
It,
Anyone is impacted
it
by
can affect
again
anyone.
mental illness. We all have mental
Mhm.
health.
Yep, that's true. So we have about 10 more minutes with Miss Natasha. I'm going to put it out to the audience. Does anyone have any questions for her, specifically for her? We just have 10 more minutes and then we are wrapping it up. Anyone have any questions? Welcome, Dr. EJ. Thank you for joining. And she mentioned, yes, developing a routine is key. Yeah, so someone with mental illness, developing a routine is helpful. Anyone else have any questions, comments you'd like to ask Miss Natasha on mental health, mental illness? So in the meantime, where can folks reach you? Or is there anything else you want to add? Like maybe I didn't,
Um,
did we?
you may want to add. Remember, you're talking about some. I'm glad you talk about a vitamin D. Maybe
Mm-hmm,
this is more your specialty. You may want to add out some physical illness does mimic mental illness, but it's in reality it's a physical illness. You mentioned
mm-hmm,
low vitamin D can mimic depression, especially for brown and black people. In the
mm-hmm,
winter months, we have seasonal depression. We may think we have depression, but again, that's low vitamin D.
mm-hmm.
Also, I think it's called a high when your thyroid is high. That mimics
Hyperthyroid.
depression.
Mm-hmm.
I think someone was also telling me hyperglycemia that also mimic
Hyperglycemia. Mm-hmm,
mimic some mental illness. So before you get any type of mental illness diagnosis, make
mm-hmm.
sure physical illness is being ruled out.
Yeah. Yeah, because someone could have high blood sugar issues and their blood sugar can be really high and it actually can cause them to go into a coma. So it actually
Mm,
can affect them mentally if their blood sugar is too high. And there's other physical health issues as well that can mimic and look like mental illness. But again, if you're having any physical manifestations, it's important to go to your primary care physician and then they will refer you to a specialist, and then
mm-hmm.
once they refer you to a specialist, then that specialist may actually refer you out to a psychiatrist, and then it just goes into this steps, and the physical can manifest. It could be a mental, and you brought up a good point where thyroid issues too. If you have a thyroid issue, that can actually cause depression. That's more so in hypothyroid. So someone that has
Mm,
low active thyroid, they can have issues with depression. So everything starts to slow down. Depression, they have intolerance to cold temperatures, they started gaining weight. And also women too, us women who experience monthly, monthly menses, we bleed every month, because of the changes of those hormones every month. Sometimes we may experience a little bit of depression. That don't mean we have a mental illness. It's just because
Right.
the hormones are a little bit, doing their thing that month. So there are times where, you may feel a little bit down, or you may feel like aggravated and angry, but if you notice, if it's just only happening that time every month,
Right.
then you can connect it to, it's your hormones, right? Whereas if someone maybe going into menopause can experience the same thing, because again, their hormones are changing. They're not producing the certain amounts of hormones anymore,
Right.
so
Right.
so there are those type of things to pay attention to. Sometimes if you may be angry, we're talking about suppressing emotions. Sometimes someone may come off angry because they're suppressing something that's bothering them, but it's
Uh,
coming out as anger. They're frustrated
Right.
with something, but it's coming out as anger. So these are things, you can even try to really just look into what's going on in your life before even going to a doctor. I
Right.
mean,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
um, I'm not discouraging going to a doctor, but sometimes you pay attention to yourselves and pay
Right. Know
attention.
yourself. It's so
Hmm.
important to know yourself. And I'm glad Dr. K mentioned that the more you know yourself is the more you can, I would say, support yourself. And
Hmm.
for some people, it doesn't mean you have to go see a professional. Sometimes if you have that one person you can talk to, that's healing. If you have a
Yep.
support group, if you have a group, if you have a group where you're able to express yourself, that's supportive. I mean, people need people. We're not isolated beings. One of the most healing thing that helped even me and most of the clients that I've worked with is healing and safe relationships,
Hmm.
staying connected with supportive people. Um, Especially right now, it's so important to stay connected. What did that look like? Your Zoom calls, your phone calls. Staying connected is so important right now as
Hmm.
people. And also have a lot of boundaries around what you're going to let in. I mean, the news, number one, that's impacting your mental health. If you're watching
Hmm.
the news all the time about, that's going to impact your mental health. So
It's
have
funny.
some
My
type of,
mom, it's funny as you said. Sorry, but my mom is like, okay. At one point, with this COVID thing and the heart of it, it's just constant, constant, constant. And it's like she just turned the TV off. She's like, okay, it's too much now. I can't. It's like she knew when to cut it off. She knew like, okay, enough. I had enough. Because you
yes,
keep watching the same thing over and over. This person just died. Oh, these
it's like
numbers just
you're conditioning your
yeah,
brain for
yeah.
the negatives.
He's like, oh, a thousand more, diagnosed with COVID-19. It's like, okay, enough, and
Right,
there's
right,
like
right,
she just had
right.
the TV off because she's like, okay, enough. And you really have to just know when to cut it off. Like
When to cut it off, have some.
when you can tolerate, like, okay, this is my limit and I'm done. Like I don't need any more than that. And it's same thing with a person. I'm glad you brought that up. Healthy relationships. If you're in, even if it's a family member, if they're toxic
Mm-hmm.
and they're not worth being around, you just got to cut them off because your mental health is so important than that family member, right? You just got
Yeah,
to stay away
boundaries.
from
Love
them, pray
people
for
from
them, and
afar. Mhm.
huh?
I said it's so important to have boundaries. Learn to love
Yep.
people from afar is very
Yep.
important. Another big thing we need to, I can say, is decluttering your space. That's
Mm-hmm.
definitely having a space that's not clutter. Definitely impact your mental health. Like if your bedroom is full of stuff all over the place, and you have things that you've been at for 20 years in your house, that impact your mental health too. So having a clean and uncluttered space is definitely a part of I would say a protective factor in your mental health. And lastly, we're not our, even though mental illness can be passed on through our DNA, again, our DNA is not our destiny. With diet and lifestyle changes, we can turn off those genes.
Mm-hmm.
Epigenetics, look it up. Just,
Mm-hmm.
so
Yep.
we are the master of our fate.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to
Mm-hmm.
get too deep into things, but we have the ability to literally like redesign our whole biology. Well, some of us, I will say. Dr. K probably can talk deeper into that stuff, but we
Mm-hmm.
can reconnect certain things in our brain. Even if we grow up in a household that is wired for mental health or mental illnesses or any illnesses, we can
Mm-hmm.
rewire that through diet and lifestyle. So I'm a big
Mm-hmm.
advocate for that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and some of the things that I would interject with right there is, one can eat a lot of dark leafy green vegetables. A lot of dark leafy green
Hmm.
vegetables actually has magnesium in there, and magnesium, that it has calcium and other nutrients as well. But magnesium is really relaxing. It's a mineral that's really good for
Hmm.
relaxation. So eating a lot of dark leafy green vegetables are important. Eating things like nuts and seeds is important because
Ginkgo is very good for the brain and
yep,
concentration.
yep,
I have my ginkgo tea, my uh, B complex, just
yeah,
very good for the
yeah,
brain.
yeah.
I think MCT, I just heard about that. That's in like
Um,
coconut oil. That's very
mhm,
good for the brain. I
mhm.
mean, there's so many things that
Mhm,
is out there that's very good for
mhm.
us to support our brain. Brain health matters.
Yep, exactly. Because the food that we eat can actually, nourish our brain. So like the dark leafy
Hmm.
greens, it nourishes our nervous system, which helps with the anxiety and the fear and the nervousness and
Hmm.
irritability, the restlessness. I mean, you can get these things supplementally as well, but I always like to, promote diet first.
Hmm.
Diet, exercise, you're taking things like, also having your healthy fats, your omega-3 fatty acids that you can get from your almonds and your avocados and your flax seeds and your chia seeds, these are important. And you mentioned MCT, which is actually from coconut oil, is medium chain triglyceride. So now that it's only good for weight loss, but it's also good to help nourish your brain. So eating coconut is
Hmm.
great, to nourish the brain. So we just not good for us to neglect these things. I mentioned vitamin D already. Choline is actually another great nutrient for
Mhm.
the brain, that actually helps with memory and learning and everything. So like lentils, pumpkin seeds, and sunflower seeds have choline in there to help with the brain. Walnuts, walnuts are high.
Walnuts. Walnuts even is shaped like the brain. The two lobes.
Exactly. And the funny thing about it is, like, when I was in school, we have something called Doctor of Signatures. And
Mm.
we learned what that means is, like, some of the things in nature resembles what it's good for. And walnuts is actually one of those things. It looks like a brain. Just like if you look at a pomegranate, right? When you cut the pomegranate open, it looks like a heart chamber, right? So it's good for the heart, it's good for circulation, it's good for, so it's great. Like, God created everything we need for our body already.
Mm.
Blueberries are good for the
Very
brain.
good. The berries are very good. The antioxidants.
Mm-hmm. And it's good
Hmm.
to improve the learning and motor skills, and things like zinc. Zinc is really important as well. And one thing I want to touch upon with children, if parents, if you find your kids having brain issues, like not paying attention in school, they're hyper, they may be zinc deficient, because zinc actually plays a role in the brain. So
Mm.
zinc you can also find in almonds and chickpeas and cashews and lentils. Those are good. Good fats I mentioned. Amino acids, right? Amino acids supports the brain chemistry. So amino acids is your baseline for protein. That's what helps. It's your building blocks for protein. So protein is really important as well
Mm.
for brain function, and all that. So um,
Essential oils is also good aromatherapy. It's very good.
rosemary.
Lavender is a very
Hmm.
good oil for a lot of things, especially if you
Hmm.
have sleeping issues.
Hmm.
A ling ling, I mispronounced that essential oil, but that's good for depression.
I know what you're
I
talking about. Yeah,
mean, huh?
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, ling ling for depression. I mean, orange, anything with orange, that's good for the mood disorders.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many
Orange
things
essential
in,
oil.
huh?
It's Orange essential oil is really good. It kind of like brightens you up and like
Right,
makes
like
you
you see, that's
alert.
why it's have an orange wall.
Yeah,
Even
yeah.
color therapy, there's so many things. I mean, even music. Music is life, especially with young kids.
Mhm.
It's all about learning how to regulate yourself. Regulate, when life get hard, what's a ritual that I can incorporate in my life that I can use to get me back to that balanced state? And there's so
Mhm.
many things in nature, simple as listen to relaxing music. That's another way that we can get back to that balanced state.
Hmm.
And so
I
many
mean,
things.
one of my things that I like to do, but it's not realistic all the time. I like to go for a walk in nature by the water. I like to hear the sound of water relaxes me. That's why I love the rain. When it rains and I'm hearing
Right.
it,
You fall asleep easy, right?
it's
Right.
so therapeutic for me. I mean, I remember when I was younger, I used to write a lot. I used to do a lot of poetry, and that helped me get through a lot of my emotions.
Mm,
And so that was really helpful. So writing is really great. Um,
really helpful.
because you mentioned that earlier that journaling is important, and you also mentioned talking to someone, so finding someone that
Hmm.
you can trust. So you may not go to a professional like Natasha, but if you can find a close friend or somebody that you
Hmm.
can rely on or trust, just to open
Right.
up and talk to. So where should one go first to get to for help if you are diagnosed? Yeah, so if you're diagnosed with a mental illness, you will go to a psychiatrist. But however, I personally tend to shy away from recommend them to go to that. I usually said, okay, go to someone like you because you want somebody who's gonna look at it holistically.
Right.
I
Right.
always tell people
Right.
don't be quick to go to someone that's gonna give you a drug, right? Because
Right.
it's
Because,
not going
right.
to
That's my opinion. But,
unless you're completely like schizophrenic or bipolar and you just need something to calm you down, then okay, that's different. But however, while you're taking the drug, you can be doing something natural to support yourself, right? You can do something through eat the right foods and take the right things to help support your brain chemistry and your mood and all that.
and
Um,
most medication that was developed, they were not developed for long-term use.
that is
I
a good
mean,
point.
they were not developed for long-term use. I think they're developed for like 3 to 6 months. So you're on a
Hmm.
medication that their life span is not developed for long term. So, and
Hmm.
it's got a lot of side effects. I mean, and it's hard for them to even win you off these medications. And when you're win off, you
Hmm.
having symptoms.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I think one is to tick. I didn't want to get into it, but there's so many symptoms along with these medication. But again, everything, to each his own. I'm not here to downplay again any other profession, but
Yeah.
there's, do your
You
research.
have a choice.
You are the expert of your life, and it's very important
Right.
that when you sit
Right.
down with any person, whether it's me, Dr. K, or a MD, a
Hmm.
psychiatrist, you are the expert of you, and it's very important that you do your own research about what is going on with you and how
Hmm.
you need to be supported.
Yep, exactly. Exactly. And so if anyone wants to make an appointment with you or see you, and because I know you're taking virtual consultations right now, right?
I'm doing
So
virtual. I'm fully virtually right now.
okay, which is perfect because I think after this pandemic, I think
Right.
80% of businesses are going to be end up going digital
Hmm.
and virtual. So how can folks reach you if they need to contact you?
So my number is 973-910-8470.
Mm-hmm. Wait, say it again. I'm writing it in the chat. 973.
973
Mm-hmm.
910
Mm-hmm.
8470.
Okay.
And I also want to leave two numbers for people in New York. I want to leave the suicide hotline. Um, Suicide hotline number is 1-888
Mm-hmm.
692
Mm-hmm.
9355.
The suicide hotline.
And they probably will forward you to the local NYC hotline, and that's a 24-hour hotline for with any age experiencing mental illness. They have different languages. They open 24 hours, 7 days a week, and these are, mental health professionals that
Mm-hmm.
will help you. Um, and also, I want to leave another number for the domestic violence hotline. The domestic violence is at a very high rate right now, and you're home with your abuser, wherever you are. I want to leave
Mm-hmm.
the domestic violence hotline, which is 1-800
Mm-hmm.
799
Mm-hmm.
7233.
Domestic violence. Okay. Yeah, that's also increasing too. Divorce rates are actually at a high right now
Hmm.
because people are actually now staying home and learning their spouses and realizing like I can't do this. I can't do this. They're no longer going,
I'm
leaving.
like, I don't like you.
Yeah. They're like, I can deal with you for, I mean, I leave the house for 8 hours at least, and I could deal with you for like 10 hours, but 24 hours, I can't. Like, I can't. I mean, this is by all means, this is not the grounds for divorce, but that's a whole different, complete different thing. But, divorce rates actually has increased since the pandemic, unfortunately. Um, all right, so that's it. So, okay, it's 8:52, guys. Miss Natasha is busy, so I thank you so much, Natasha, for
Thank
joining us tonight.
you for having me.
Thank you for coming on and empowering and educating us on mental health and mental illness. Her number is there, guys. If you need to call and make an appointment with her, 973-910-8470. And she also gave some numbers of domestic violence hotline, which is 1-800-799-7233. And the suicide hotline is 888-692-9355. So if you know anyone that's experiencing any of these, please use those numbers. If you're just looking to chat with her, you want to make an appointment with her, please call her and make an appointment. And that's it. So I'm going to
Thank
sign out. Thank you
you.
so much, Natasha, for joining us. Thank you for coming on board and helping us out and just open up our minds to this wealth of information. So
Thank
thank
you so much for having me,
you.
Dr. K, and much love and light to everyone. Mental health is his health. There's no health without mental health. Take care, everyone.
That is true. That is true. All right. So thank you everyone for
Bye.
joining us. Please share this video to anyone you know that can be helpful to. Also, if you need to contact me, Dr. K McDermott, you can email me at truevinewellness@gmail.com, or you can go on my website, truevinewellness.com, make an appointment, or if you just have a question, you can inbox me a quick question. You can inbox me on Facebook or Instagram, DM me if you have a quick question. But again, if you need to make an appointment, you can email me at trueviolence@gmail.com, or you can just go straight to my website and book your appointment. All right. So thank you guys. Have a great night. It was it
Night.
was a pleasure. It was good runnings. All right, guys. Take care. Have a good one.
Bye bye.
All right. Bye.